In California this week, federal prosecutors are trying to do something that no law enforcement agency has been able to do: break up one of the nation's most violent prison gangs. On trial, facing racketeering charges, are 13 leaders of a group known as eMe, Spanish for the letter M, which stands for Mexican Mafia. But in this case, it also stands for murder. ABC's Ken Kashiwahara has had a rare opportunity to see the gang at work.
As gangland executions go, this one was especially vicious. 5 people shot to death, including a 5-year-old and a baby. Prosecutors say it was ordered by the Mexican Mafia to make an example of gang members who were disloyal.
There's no type of murder that can be conceived of that would be unusual for a Mexican Mafia member.
Ramon Mendoza, a former member now in the Witness Protection Program, was recruited into the Mexican Mafia while serving time for murder in California's San Quentin prison. He had decapitated a rival gang member with a machete.
The Mexican Mafia, bar none, is the most violent prison gang in the system. When we walked the yard, we feared no one. We feared not the guards, not the inmates around us.
That violence is no longer confined to prisons. Now the gang is using the same ruthlessness to control drug distribution throughout Southern California's Latino communities. That viciousness was captured in the movie American Me. But prosecutors say gang leaders found the movie insulting and ordered the murder of neighborhood activist Ana Lizarraga, who served as a technical advisor and had a bit part in the film. Lizarraga was gunned down in her driveway.
The outside world is like a playground for us. When we're out on the streets, we have no regard for human life.
Just how little regard is made clear in this FBI surveillance video at a meeting of Mexican Mafia leaders.
Somebody wants to kill him. But I figured we could get some use out of him in the meantime and then take him out.
The Mexican Mafia is far more than a street gang. It is a very powerful and well-organized group of long-standing that really exerts control over other street gangs throughout the Hispanic community.
It is their discipline and organization that makes it difficult for police to combat. One stronghold, Ramona Gardens in East Los Angeles, home of a street gang called Hazard, a gang controlled by the Mexican Mafia. So they carry out their executions here.
Oh, without a doubt.
Sergeant Raymond Montijo, who has been on the gang beat for years, says the Mexican Mafia rules neighborhoods and their street gangs through fear. Are you guys members of Hazard?
See what I mean?
Yeah.
They're afraid to talk. And if some guy talks, they'll do him in.
Mexican Mafia members are not afraid to kill because they don't fear the punishment. By trying them in federal court, prosecutors hope to break up the gang. They'll move the leaders out of California and disperse them throughout the federal prison system. But those who study gangs wonder if that will simply spread the problem. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News.
Come in here and if you don't belong to Hazard and they catch you here, you're going to have some problems. And usually they'll come in there. One of the big things is say, where you from, Holmes? And of course, you better fess up to where you're from. I said, soy de la Hazard. And the guy will come by and he'll throw a sign. He'll say, it's an H for Hazard. And we just counter them. It's known as the housing, so they kind of get a little teed off over that. But they make themselves known by hand signs, either that on writing on a wall or a verbal comment, or a hand sign alone will tell you where you're from. And if you don't respond with a proper sign, there might be some problems. And over on the right-hand side or the south side of Marengo and east of Soto, you start into KMS, Vicky's Town, and Fickett Street. And the big difference here is this freeway. This is the 10 that separates anything north of the freeway is, of course, Hazard. In Hazard, the name is derived from the park that we're going to drive by, and the name of the park was given to this park from a past mayor of the city, was Mr. Hazard.
I always felt very proud of my barrio, proud of Hazard, the name Hazard. And I guess the major reason is because my father was born in this neighborhood. So I always was raised with a tremendous pride and being a Mexicano, being a Chicano, and being part of this community. And under the inspiration of my parents, we was always taught to not just be proud, but to do something.
Oh, be from Hazard. That's like a club, a gang. This is your neighborhood. So we grew up at Hazard. Same all over. You'll find gangs all over. Clover, Whitefish, Carry, there's gangs. That's your neighborhood. That's an area.
When you belong, how do you feel?
I feel good. That's my neighborhood, you know. I'm proud of my neighborhood, and I'll hold it up.
I'm never planning on leaving Hazard. I mean, I'll grow up, get married, or have my own career and whatever, but I'll always be from Hazard.
Liz Araga was packing for her mother's funeral in Utah. Two masked men rushed to the driveway and opened fire. Police say she was executed. Police aren't sure why she became a target. They're looking at her work as a gang counselor. The one-time gang member was trying to get kids out of gangs.
She would help us if, we were her own kids. She would bend her back for us and try to help us, try to make us stay clean.
Anna showed a lot of kids that they do have a choice, that there is a life outside the projects. Her death reminds me just how far we still have to go.
The big gang problem is not going to stop overnight. It wasn't started overnight. It's not going to stop overnight. It's going to take a lot of work, not necessarily a lot of money.
Suspected gang members with alleged ties to the Mexican Mafia are now behind bars. An early morning sweep targeted gang members that authorities say have terrorized residents of the Ramona Gardens housing complex in Boyle Heights. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Grande has a look at the cache of weapons also taken in the raids.
A rude awakening as federal agents moved in during an early morning sweep and arrested 25 people. Authorities say they're members of the violent Big Hazard street gang.
This street gang has been responsible for a lot of death and carnage over the years.
Officials found dozens of weapons today, including assault rifles and handguns. They say the gang is involved in murder, extortion, and drug sales.
With sales of methamphetamine, PCP, crack cocaine, and other narcotics, the gangs were able to generate revenues, some of which was then funneled back to the Mexican Mafia.
Officials say the gang has been around for 50 years, based primarily in the Ramona Gardens housing project and the surrounding area. We went there today and people would not talk to us.
It is such an old or established street gang of over 50 years in the Boyle Heights area, and that also many of their members have ascended to, the leadership of the Mexican Mafia.
The lead defendant in the indictment is Manuel Jackson, who is in custody. Officials say he is a member of the Mexican Mafia, which controls gangs in prison and all over Southern California. Officials admit, however, even with all these arrests, the gang is still in business.
The community, they're tired of this type of behavior in their community. We're not going to sit back and watch it come up again.
The FBI is searching for a number of fugitives. Meanwhile, those in custody, officials say, could face up to 10 years in prison if convicted of racketeering, and a number of them could face life in prison. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles.
And a major gang bust in Los Angeles today. Hundreds of law enforcement officers targeted suspected gang members. Investigators believe they've been operating in the Ramona Gardens area and have ties to the Mexican Mafia. KCAL's Cara Finstrom has details now on today's indictment.
Once those arrest warrants were served, the suspected gang members were brought here to a command post downtown. We were here when one of the suspects with health problems was taken by ambulance to the hospital. No other problems were immediately reported during the searches and arrests made this morning. We saw a number of men and women brought in handcuffs and escorted into a holding area. FBI officials tell us all this stems from an extensive investigation that began in 2010. They say about 800 law enforcement personnel from a long list of agencies were involved, including the LAPD, Sheriff's Office, ATF, FBI, IRS, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. That office says that a federal racketeering indictment has been obtained against the gang and that it alleges various violations, including drug trafficking and murder.
We're targeting the worst offenders, the most violent offenders, and they do have direct ties to the Mexican Mafia. We're talking about distribution of narcotics, we're talking about robberies, we're talking about a number of different things to be named in the indictments. It is a long-term investigation, and it's a violent gang, and we think we really made an impact today.
Officials say a total of 38 people were charged in the indictment. 29 of them were arrested this morning. The others were either already in custody or are outstanding. Reporting here from downtown Los Angeles.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Hope y'all having a blessed day. So, really quick, I know you can tell the format is a little different with this video, and that's just because of how it fit, guys. I almost came across this topic of this video with Big Hazard 13 or Grande Hazard on accident. I do want to make sure I give a shout out to a Facebook page by the name of Prison Chronicles. Just doing some simple Google research, thinking about what I wanted my next topic to be. Just diving down the internet rabbit hole. Came across this link that led me to a Prison Chronicles Facebook page. And from there, I'm staring at a picture of a guy, muscular-looking Hispanic inmate, glasses on, and he's got Hazard tatted across his stomach. And the name of that person was Jose Joker Gonzalez from Ramona Gardens. And obviously, he was representing Big Hazard. And then from there, just kept reading. Ramona Gardens is a public housing development in the Boyle Heights neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. It is operated by the Housing Authority of the City of LA. Currently and historically Latino, it is also the home of Big Hazard Street Gang, which is heavily connected to the Mexican Mafia, as you can tell with those news stories I put up. I tried to kind of do it chronologically where, putting the older stories up there first. I think that was like an 80s or 90s, definitely 90s, ABC news story with the police driving around with the reporter in the car with them. And the reason I like that clip is because he tells you where the name came from, right? Mayor, park, all that. And then we go into the little clip of the documentary from the 80s where they're interviewing people that lived there. Gang member, the girl, she's proud to be where she's from. And then you fast forward into the 2010s plus, major gang busts, gang members, Southsiders, Sureños that are tied up to the Mexican Mafia, and how it all ties into the prisons, which is something that we talk about a lot on this channel. But it all started with that guy, Jose Joker Gonzalez. And when you just go check out that Facebook page, Prison Chronicles, just clicking on the link with his brief breakdown, you can read through the comments and tell the amount of respect he had as an individual and just how deep this gang, Big Hazard and Boyle Heights, is how deep those roots run. A little bit of history on these guys. We're going to read from this really quick. The Big Hazard, also known as Hazard Grande, is a Hispanic-American street gang that originated in Boyle Heights, a neighborhood in the Los Angeles, California area. They dominated the Ramona Gardens housing projects since the 1940s, which was originally built during World War II. The Ramona Gardens were predominantly a Mexican-American project with a handful of black families, which caused racial tension. That's something I do want to touch on because when I have read about Big Hazard or even Valencia 13, the one thing I do notice that I come across a lot of stories, and I've actually done a story on, he wasn't Big Hazard. I think he was a Valencia 13 gang leader. I have to go back and double check. But basically, he was actively targeting African Americans. And there was a couple other stories I read where some of these guys with Valencia 13 or even Big Hazard, they're targeting, okay, go find a black gang member. If you can't find a black gang member, just find somebody who's African American and attack them, right? They're in our area. They're in our low-income housing projects. And if they're not Hispanic, they do not belong. And again, World War II, it just gives you an idea how far back some of these gang sets really, really go. The Big Hazard originally originated as a clique of White Fence, one of the oldest street gangs in East LA. In 1972, artist Willie Heron, who became popular after paintings of a mural, quote, "The Wall That Cracked Open," which was inspired by his younger brother, who was stabbed and beaten by members of the Big Hazard. They are known for their brutal shootouts and attempted murders on local law enforcement, which intensified after the death of Mauricio Cornejo, a well-known member of Big Hazard who went into cardiac arrest while being detained in a holding cell at the Hollenbach police station in 2007. Eyewitnesses allege Cornejo was severely beaten after being handcuffed with batons by Los Angeles police officers. Gang ties to the Mexican Mafia. The Hazard Gang is known for having deep-rooted connections to the Mexican Mafia dating back to the 50s. Robert Salas, better known on the streets of Boyle Heights as a Robot, was considered a godfather of the Hazard Gang and an active member of the Mexican Mafia. However, in 2004, Robert Salas' reign of terror from behind bars ended after he died on December 4th, 2004. And it goes into just more of their lineage. Adolfo Reynoso, better known on the streets as Champ, who is also affiliated with the Big Hazard and a shot caller for the Mexican Mafia. And there's other members of the Big Hazard have been murdered by gunmen which have been hired by the Mexican Mafia, so it shows the infighting that goes on, such as Manuel Rocky Luna, Ricardo Rascal Gonzalez, and Charles Charlie Bound Manriquez. David Smilone Gallardo, a known member of the Hazard gang who graduated the Mexican Mafia. Gallardo was known for regulating the Ramona Gardens area and carrying out hits on behalf of eMe. 12 members of the Mexican Mafia were arrested, including David Gallardo, who was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. In 1994, Almost Productions, and that's James Edward Olmos. He's the one that made the famous American Me movie about the Mexican Mafia. And 49-year-old Ana Lizarga, a counselor with Community Youth Gang Services who grew up in the Ramona Gardens housing projects, were advisors to Edward James Olmos during the filming of American Me. However, on May 12, 1992, Ana Lizarraga was found dead in her driveway on her home, shot multiple times, execution style. And it was Jose Gilbert Gonzalez, who was 30 years old at the time, an active member of the East Side Hazard gang, was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison for her murder. Just gives you an idea how deep this stuff runs. And if any of you, I feel like, again, I say this often, but if you've watched content like mine, if you like channels like mine, then you've definitely heard of the backstory behind the movie American Me, which Edward James almost produced and made and was responsible for. I believe like 10 people died behind that movie being released. There were certain scenes in that movie that the Mexican Mafia were very, very upset about, and it literally cost people their lives. If you want to know more, I encourage you to just go check it out. It's very, very easy to find. They mostly feud with Latino gangs in East LA and Boyle Heights, as well as in Terrace City, such as the Avenues, the 38th Street Gang, and Barrio Nuevo Estrada. They have mortal rivals, such as the Crazy Ass Mexicans, as well as MC Force and Garrigady Loma 13. So many different cliques, so many different neighborhoods. But I just want to make sure I give a shout out to that Prison Chronicles because it started with that guy, Jose Joker Gonzalez. And I'm not saying that guy lightly. That guy's obviously a mover and a shaker, somebody of very, very much importance. Again, I can just tell by reading comments sometimes. I'm not saying you get all their information, it's all fact. But when you see 10 plus comments of the amount of respect that individual is receiving, or going, hey, I knew your brother, or hey, I did time with you here, I did time with you there, you did this here, you did this there. Their name carries weight, man. Their name's good. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. A little bit different format. Kind of took me back to when I first started my channel, and I was just trying to figure out how I like to do things. But got to get one up for the weekend for you guys. Until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.